All right, so today we're really diving deep. We're looking at the whole economic situation and the development plans for Himachal Pradesh.
Okay.
And we're basing this on, it looks like a bunch of information you got from something Chief Minister Sukhvinder Singh Sukhu presented.
Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like some notes, some key points from a presentation.
And the goal here is to really figure out what's important and give it back to you in a way that you can understand, what's being proposed and why it matters.
Right. As we look at this, there's a real awareness of the economic challenges the state is facing.
Yeah.
Especially, coming out of COVID and everything.
Yeah.
But it's not just about recognizing the problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of focus on what they're going to do. Some serious reforms and a real drive towards development.
Right.
And in running through all of this is an emphasis on being responsible with their money, with their budget.
Got it. So let's dig into these economic challenges. It seems like the chief minister is openly talking about some of the policy issues, and what they've done to the state's finances.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. There's a note here about the budget recommendations. It seems like the financial grants coming into Himachal are going down.
Uh-huh.
So what could that mean, in the bigger picture?
Well, if those grants keep decreasing, Himachal's going to have to rely more on its own resources,
Yeah.
which is why, the chief minister is emphasizing financial reforms and being careful with the budget.
Makes sense.
It's they have to find ways to make more money internally and spend it wisely.
Right, right. And it sounds like the past is playing a role, too. The notes mention some old debts that the government's still dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, that can really tie a government's hands, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you've got a bunch of debt hanging over you, it's hard to spend on what you need now and invest in the future.
Right.
So, when the chief minister talks about economic growth, we have to remember, they're also trying to clean up these old financial messes.
So they're trying to fix the past and build the future.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, so looking at the budget itself, there's a note about excise duty going up.
Okay.
Sounds like a way for the government to get more money, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty common way for governments to increase revenue.
But are there any downsides to that?
Well, you have to be careful. I mean, it can bring in money quickly, but it can also affect how people spend. And if the taxes are too different from neighboring states, it can mess things up.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it definitely shows that they're actively trying to manage their revenue.
Yeah. All right, so let's shift gears a bit. We've got this huge goal, Himachal Pradesh becoming a green energy state by 2026.
Yeah.
That's a tight timeline.
It is.
And there's this emphasis on the economic value of the state's environment.
Right.
How does that connect with this green energy push?
Well, when they recognize the economic value of their environment,
Yeah.
it makes sense for them to go all in on green energy. They've got the rivers for hydropower, sunshine for solar, wind resources, they can use all that responsibly, and it's good for the economy.
Right.
Plus, if they hit that 2026 target, I mean, that could make them a leader in renewable energy,
Yeah.
which could lead to more investment, jobs, and clean energy, even exporting energy.
I see. So it's like a long-term strategy.
Absolutely.
So how is this vision translating into the budget? What are they actually spending money on?
Well, there's funding for electric vehicles, e-vehicles, and also for rural development.
Okay.
It might seem like those are separate, but they're really connected.
How so?
E-vehicles, they reduce reliance on fossil fuels, right?
Right.
So that fits with the green energy goal. And in rural areas, e-vehicles can make transportation easier for people, maybe lower their fuel costs, and help them connect to markets and services.
Oh, interesting. So they can make a difference on multiple levels.
Exactly. And on top of that, they're putting a significant chunk of money, 200 crore, towards broader environmental challenges.
So that's a huge commitment, right?
It really is.
And it's not just about solving problems. There's also this idea of making money from ecotourism,
Right.
using the state's natural beauty to bring in revenue.
That's the idea.
Is that realistic, do you think?
It can be.
Okay.
If it's done right, if it's sustainable, ecotourism can be a win-win. You attract visitors, you make money, and then you reinvest that money back into protecting the environment and building the infrastructure for more ecotourism.
So it's like a cycle, a good cycle.
Exactly.
And it looks like they're also getting the community involved,
Yeah.
right? There's something about financial incentives for women's self-help groups, Mahila Mandals, to plant trees?
Yeah, getting locals involved, especially groups like that, is really important. It gives them a stake in it, makes them care about the long-term success.
So it's not just the government doing it all.
Right.
Okay. And there's more. Schemes for taking care of the plants, developing the forest sector, expanding forests. Like, it's a whole package.
Yeah, they're really trying to tackle this from all angles.
Okay, let's switch gears again. What about, like, the bread and butter, the agriculture, and the rural economy?
Okay, so there's a clear emphasis on special initiatives aimed at improving the rural economy.
Right.
They're also focusing on broader financial reforms to, like, lay the foundation for progress.
Makes sense. What kind of special initiatives are we talking about?
Well, there are new schemes to promote animal husbandry, new technologies, and financial support for the Wool Federation, things like that.
So targeted support for specific industries.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to bolster these traditional ways of life.
Okay, and what about the farmers themselves? Like, are there any specific plans to help them?
Oh, absolutely. They're increasing the minimum support price for milk, which is great for dairy farmers.
Yeah.
They're also integrating different agricultural schemes and creating new subsidy schemes.
So making it easier for farmers to get help.
Exactly. And this is important. They're increasing the MSP for naturally farmed produce, which shows they're serious about sustainable farming.
Right.
The chief minister keeps talking about how important it is to improve the lives of farmers.
That's good to hear.
So all of this together, it's a real focus on this sector.
What about specific crops? Like, are there anything targeted there?
Yeah, they're setting a fixed price of 90 per kilogram for turmeric.
Okay, so that's price certainty for the farmers.
Right.
They know what they're going to get.
Exactly. It helps them plan.
Yeah.
And there's this bigger goal of using new farming techniques, high-tech storage like silos, and diversification projects.
So modernizing the sector.
Exactly. Making it more efficient,
Yeah.
more profitable.
And they're supporting both general farming and horticulture, right?
That's right.
Which makes sense. Himachal is famous for its fruit.
Yeah. And they're really pushing to strengthen the horticulture sector using digital tools, economic incentives.
So a modern approach to a traditional industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's all part of this big commitment to agriculture,
With the plantation and irrigation schemes and everything?
Yeah, all of it.
Okay, what about the fishing community?
Well, they're getting new boats.
So they haven't been forgotten?
Nope, not at all.
So it's a holistic approach to the rural economy.
It really seems to be. They're trying to help everyone.
Okay, let's talk tourism. Himachal is a big tourist destination.
Yeah.
What are they doing to build on that?
Well, they're making some big decisions about tourism development.
Okay. Like what?
For one thing, they're supporting homestay units and startup schemes within the tourism sector.
So empowering local communities.
Exactly.
Giving them a chance to benefit from the tourism.
Right.
Instead of just, big companies.
Yeah, and by encouraging homestays, they're giving tourists a more authentic experience,
Right, right.
Plus, there are new schemes specifically for tribal areas to make sure everyone benefits.
That's good. So they're thinking about equity as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've got local empowerment, but what about the type of tourism? Like, are they focusing on any particular kind?
Yeah, they're looking at higher value tourism, like projects to improve religious and experiential tourism.
So attracting, like, a different type of tourist?
Maybe.
Okay.
The idea is that these tourists spend more money, which is good for the economy,
Right.
but also they might have less of an environmental impact than, like, tons of budget travelers.
It's about quality over quantity.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
And they're also diversifying what they offer, like developing religious sites, building wellness centers for health tourism.
Interesting. So attracting a wider range of people.
Exactly.
Oh, and there's this idea of promoting tea tourism.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Himachal has some amazing tea estates.
It does.
That could be a really unique draw.
Definitely for people interested in, like, agricultural tourism, beautiful scenery, that kind of thing.
Right, right. It's another way to use what Himachal already has. Absolutely. So moving beyond tourism specifically, there's a lot of talk about rural development.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is building new training centers,
Right.
investing in skills development. That just seems so important,
Crucial.
If you want to empower rural communities, they need the skills to participate in the economy.
Exactly. And these training centers, they're right there in the rural areas,
So people don't have to travel far.
Right.
And it's not just about training. There's also support for self-help groups.
Yeah, that's another great way to boost the rural economy, empowering people to help themselves.
It's all about building from the ground up.
It is.
And it's connected to employment too, right?
Oh, yeah.
There are new plantation schemes, and they're increasing wages under MG and RGA.
Right.
And those things not only provide income, but they also help the environment.
Absolutely. MGN-REGA, it's a lifeline for a lot of rural families.
Yeah.
And increasing those wages, that puts more money into the local economy.
And planting trees, that's a win-win, right?
It is.
Good for the environment, good for jobs.
Exactly. And there's also a dedicated budget for skill training and development.
So they're really serious about this.
They are. It's about making sure people have the skills to get jobs, to succeed.
Okay, let's talk about getting around transportation. In a mountainous state like Himachal, that's got to be a challenge.
It is.
But it looks like they're making some big moves, like helping taxi drivers switch to electric vehicles.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And they're providing subsidies to make it easier.
Right.
So they're really pushing for cleaner transportation.
They are.
And it's not just taxis. There are subsidies for new electric vehicles for everyone and new bus routes.
So they're improving connectivity and doing it in a sustainable way.
Exactly. And roads. You can't forget roads. They're investing heavily in road development.
Which is crucial.
I mean, that's how you move goods and people.
It's the backbone of the economy.
And then there's this huge project, the Chandigarh rail line, 1,200 crore.
That's a major investment.
It's going to connect those regions in a whole new way.
Yeah, and it could really boost industrial development in that area.
So we've got electric vehicles, new roads, a major rail line, and there's more, right?
Yeah, they're planning even more transportation initiatives in the next budget.
So they're not letting up.
Nope.
And they're introducing clean energy buses, too.
Oh, e-buses.
So it's all connected to that green vision.
It is.
Oh, and what about Shimla, the capital?
Oh, yeah, the traffic there can be a nightmare.
So they're doing something about it,
They've approved a new project to address the traffic problem.
which I'm sure will be welcomed by everyone who's ever been stuck in traffic there.
Absolutely.
And it's not just Shimla. They're also developing the Sukhdev Road
Yeah.
and working on energy projects in Una and Mandi districts.
Right, so they're spreading the development around,
And they're building new substations to ensure a good power supply.
which is essential, you know?
With all these developments, they're going to need a lot of electricity. Okay, let's switch gears again. What about the digital side of things, like technology and governance?
All right, well, they're implementing a digital revenue system to manage land records.
So they're digitizing things.
Yeah, which can make things way more efficient and transparent.
I mean, land records are so important.
They are.
And this should make things a lot easier for people.
Absolutely. And it's not just land records. They're pushing for more digital initiatives across the board.
So modernizing government services.
Exactly. Making things easier for people, more accessible.
That makes sense.
And they're also planning to decentralize the government a bit.
Oh, interesting. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, it's about making sure that funds and resources are distributed effectively. You know, making government more responsive at the local level.
So they're thinking about how the government is structured.
Yeah, they're looking at the whole system.
Okay. And what about essential services like public safety?
Yeah, they're improving fire stations and getting new firefighting vehicles.
So they're not forgetting about the basics?
Nope, not at all. Those services are crucial.
All right, let's talk about education. It looks like they're doing some reforming, like rationalizing institutions.
Yeah, and they're taking into account the fact that birth rates are declining.
So fewer kids in school.
Right, which means they need to restructure things.
So they're adapting to the changing demographics.
They are. And they're also using technology, you know, like digital attendance tracking.
Okay.
And they're setting up these Rajiv Gandhi Day boarding schools.
So new models of education.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's all about finding ways to improve.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And they're putting a lot of effort into improving school infrastructure and management.
Because good schools are the foundation, right?
Absolutely.
And they're not stopping there. They're creating a new university focused on technical education.
Right, a university that's all about innovation.
Which is so important these days.
It is.
We need people with those skills.
Absolutely. And there's more, you know, educational excursions for students, skill development schemes, a special budget for children.
So they're really investing in the next generation.
They are. It's about giving them the best chance possible.
Okay, let's talk about social welfare and healthcare.
Right?
There's a lot here. Significant funding for Social Security schemes, new programs for women and daughters.
It looks like they're trying to strengthen the safety net for those who need it most.
Right.
And there's a new financial assistance scheme specifically for daughters.
Okay, so it's targeted support.
Yeah. And they're also addressing the needs of the poor and disabled.
So a comprehensive approach to social welfare.
Exactly. They're trying to cover all the bases.
What about specific initiatives? Like, are there any standout programs?
Well, they're building new hostels for women.
Which is so important, providing safe and affordable housing.
Absolutely.
And there's a new scheme focused on maternal and child nutrition,
Right.
which is an investment in the future, really.
It is. Yeah. Healthy mothers and children, that's the foundation of a healthy society.
And it's not just modern medicine, they're also supporting traditional medicine, like AYUSH.
Yeah, they've got several schemes related to AYUSH and general wellness.
So they're recognizing the value of different approaches,
They are.
and they're tackling tough issues like drug addiction.
Yeah, they've announced new schemes for de-addiction.
So it's a holistic approach to healthcare.
It is. They're looking at the physical, mental, and social well-being of the people.
What about healthcare infrastructure, like hospitals and clinics?
Yeah, they're expanding services, building new medical units, upgrading existing ones with new technology.
So a significant investment.
It is. And they're also increasing financial assistance for healthcare needs.
So people can actually afford treatment.
Right. And they're giving medical staff big salary increases.
Which is so important for attracting and keeping good doctors and nurses.
It is.
And they're thinking about different groups, like they've got a new health budget focused on youth and those with serious illnesses.
And new initiatives for the elderly and children.
So everyone's being considered.
They're trying to, yeah.
And they're being proactive about drug issues.
Right. They've got a statewide anti-drug awareness and rehabilitation plan.
That's great.
And they're promoting drug treatment facilities, school health programs, even addressing sleep-related disorders.
Wow. So they're really taking a comprehensive approach to public health.
They are. It's impressive.
Okay, let's shift gears one last time.
All right.
What about industry, attracting investment, creating jobs?
Okay, so they're making changes to the industrial policy to make Himachal more attractive to investors.
So creating a good business environment.
Exactly.
And they're creating a high-level board to help resolve industrial problems.
So they're taking those problems seriously.
Which is important for investors. They want to know that their concerns will be addressed.
Absolutely. And there are new subsidy schemes for artisans and industries and interest assistance for solar energy projects.
So they're providing financial incentive.
They are.
To encourage growth and sustainable practices.
Right.
And it's not just about money. They're also improving training programs and digital services for businesses.
So they're investing in the ecosystem, you know.
Making it easier for businesses to operate and succeed.
Exactly.
And then there's the software technology park they're building.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It's about creating high-skilled jobs, attracting investment in the IT sector.
Right.
It's about the future of the economy.
It is.
And they haven't forgotten about the traditional sectors. There are new schemes for agriculture and housing development, too.
So it's balanced growth
Yeah.
across different sectors.
Exactly. Okay, last but not least, urban development.
All right.
What are they doing for the cities and towns?
Well, they've got new schemes for urban development, new schemes to support small businesses,
All right.
including a welfare scheme for shopkeepers and a one-time settlement policy for the poor.
So they're trying to help those who are struggling.
They are.
And they're increasing funding for local bodies.
Yeah, giving them more resources to address the needs of their communities.
Which makes sense. They're closer to the people.
Exactly.
What about basic services like water?
Oh, they're starting drinking water schemes in 11 cities.
Okay.
And the Jal Shakti department is doing a lot of work on existing water supply schemes.
Clean water is essential.
It is.
And they're thinking about water quality, too.
Yeah, there are new schemes for water quality and disease prevention.
So they're taking a preventative approach.
They are.
And they're planning a new water testing lab and new sewerage schemes.
So they're taking care of the whole water cycle.
It's a big job.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. From green energy to rural development, from tourism to urban planning and everything in between.
Yeah, we have.
What are your final thoughts? Like, what stands out to you?
Well, first of all, the scale of this is impressive.
Yeah.
They're really trying to transform Himachal Pradesh.
And they're not shying away from the challenges.
Not at all. They're tackling the economy, the environment, social issues, everything.
And it's not just a bunch of random initiatives. It's all connected.
Right.
Like the green energy push is linked to rural development, which is linked to tourism and so on.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach.
And they're being proactive.
Yeah.
Like they're not waiting for problems to happen. They're trying to anticipate them and address them in advance.
That's a forward-looking approach.
So with all these plans in motion, what do you see as the biggest opportunities or maybe the biggest hurdles for Himachal Pradesh in the coming years?
That's a great question.
I mean, it's clear they're trying to create a more sustainable future, both economically and environmentally,
Yeah.
and they're trying to make sure everyone
But
benefits.
that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah,
Making sure everyone benefits.
ensuring that growth is inclusive
Right.
and balancing economic growth with environmental protection.
Absolutely.
It's a delicate balance.
It is. And then there's the challenge of implementation.
Right, they can have all these great plans, but can they actually make them happen?
Exactly. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of coordination, a lot of commitment.
So there's a lot to watch in the coming years.
There is. It's going to be a fascinating journey to follow.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for guiding us through this massive amount of information.
My pleasure.
And thanks to you all for listening. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Bye.
Bye.